I will try to start by saying this is a initiative within Battery 2030 Plus, and I will tell you a little bit what Battery 2030 Plus is. And then I hope that our main organizer, Silvia Borduardo from Torino, can join and give the proper introduction. So I start a little bit by telling you what Battery 2030 Plus is and why, as a background, why we have this two-day course. So Battery 2030 Plus is a large-scale research initiative. It has a long-term roadmap, and it has a little bit of the vision that it should actually animate the European research landscape. And I will show you a little bit of what that means. But in this long-term roadmap, one important area we think that are novel and long-term and disruptive, that is self-healing. And this initiative works through a number of projects. And these projects have been open calls that the project leaders have been able to apply to. And if we look at what they are doing and how they are collaborating, we have one big one called BigMap, working on modeling tools and to handle large sets of data, high throughput experiments, new algorithms to explain really the details and what's going on in batteries, to accelerate the way we can find new materials and concepts. We have 3 sensing projects working on different kinds of sensors, and we have two projects on self-healing, hidden and but forever, and these will also be part of these workshops. So you will meet Maria Wilkman from VTT in Finland, who is responsible for hidden, and my town from But Forever from VUB in Belgium. And these projects have now been working for almost 2.5 years, soon 3 years. And we are working together to really set standards and guidelines, communication, curricula, roadmap needs and gaps to really push for Europe new calls that can happen. And I see to my happiness that we have our own host in the right place in the meeting. So I hope Eva can solve it for the other ones. Thumbs up, really happy. But I will continue. So the mission we have is, of course, because the Commission puts a lot of money in it. And I can say that I'm Christina Edström, I'm the coordinator of the coordination support action, the spider in the net to make the collaborations between these projects and drive this roadmap forward. So it's an ambitious large-scale program, and our vision is to reinvent the batteries of the future, accelerate the process to find new battery materials and battery concepts, and have a close loop with modeling, hand in hand with high throughput experiments. And right now, and we will soon move to the next phase. Right now we have these projects, and the participants come from 24 countries in Europe and from 101 organizations. It's academia, RTO, and industry. And we have also some associated countries. I think UK is still yellow, it should be different. But anyway, in the next phase, we will be new projects coordinated by other things to drive it forward. And our research areas is that I've indicated already, the materials acceleration platform, a special focus on interfaces. So one of the 3 new projects coming up very soon, they are focusing on the battery interface. And then we have the self-healing, the sensing. And we have feedback loops between these projects, which we think is important. We have cross-cutting research areas that also will come as new projects in the next phase when we are growing and extending. And that is manufacturability and recyclability. And today we're going to talk about self-healing because it's a very important part of the roadmap. And of course, this I nicked this picture from a special issue telling you in depth the research background with lots of references and so on that you can find advanced energy material from last year. And this is from Roberto Minco. You will hear him talk soon about self-healing in emerging technology for next generation smart batteries. And here you see how the smart batteries is sort of dependent, can be sort of helped by self-healing and recovery processes. But of course, it's linked to sensing, monitoring, evaluation, artificial intelligence. The big map approach is then fundamental also for self-healing, because here you are developing operando catalyzation techniques and try to build it together with more screening, robotics for materials, but also to find an accelerated way to really probe self-healing mechanism, you can say, because we really want to be subtle and go into the details of the cell to do that. I can say that I'm not just an administrator myself. I've worked in this field, the experimental field as such also. And you have also the computation, the development of algorithms, where you can pick a lot of data and train artificial intelligence on the data you generate, because if there's battery scientists generate a lot of data, and can we use that data better than we use today? And in this way, the Big Map project try to find ways to have standards and protocols, ontology, models, repositories, etc., and have a full app store on this. And the different projects are linked into this. When looking at the self-healing, and I taken this slide from Jean-Marie Tarascon, Collège de France, because he's really was very fundamental in the writing of this roadmap. We can say that the self-healing, you can have multi-layers where you have self-healing molecules. You can have surface functionalization, external or internal stimulation is more like encapsulated self-healing molecules that you can trigger by an external stimulation. And the roadmap says that we should reunite excellent but European research teams, different disciplines to handle this. We should determine response time as associated to stimulus, activate the self-healing actions for identifying the best solution to repair failures pertaining to electrofractory, SCI coarsening, etc. One thing that we're not working at the moment, but is in the roadmap, that is to develop biosourced membranes with controlled functionalities and porosity for ion detection. But we work on engineering separators with not necessarily micelles, but you can do it with micelles holding organic molecules with various functionalities that can be triggered for auto-repairing within the cell environment. And of course, establish an efficient feedback loop between sensing information BMS. So in fact, next step is to really merge the field of sensoring and self-healing together. So a sensor can say, oh, now we have to trigger a signal, so we get the self-healing. And a recommendation is to gain inspiration from other fields, like the medical field, for instance. And here we have the two projects, Hidden and Self-Heal, and Bat Forever, that have different approaches. I will not say so much, but because I think Maria will come into this herself later. But the Hidden project have two different concepts: liquid crystals in the electrolyte or piezoelectric separators. I'll let you tell yourself what this is. While the Bat Forever works very much on silicon anodes and the problem of the cracking of the electrode when you have very much volume expansion. And this is Jean-Marie's vision and how we should build this together within the cell and the self-healing we have within the cell, and with some sensors where we can trigger this, and we need to be sort of linked to the full modeling part as well, and we can get better durability, safety, lifetime predictability, efficient use of these batteries. And as I said, we have this special issue featuring 11 papers. I use the word battery ontology If you don't know what that is, there is a whole paper on that in this special issue. And I would like to highlight that you can come to our annual meeting in Uppsala in May, where we will discuss again in depth, and you can also present your own research. And here you have the link to our webpage. You can see it. And you can read more about us on our webpage, and we are on Twitter and LinkedIn. I think now I have the very great honor to hand over to the real organizer of this session. Her name is not Eva Regård, as it says. Her name is Silvia Bodoado from Torino. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Christina. I will change the name then, but I don't know. So thank you very much, and forgive me for this delay in starting and not being on time, but we get some very practical and simple issue. Now we hope that everything will work properly. So I will take no long time on this, but I want just to share my screen to present the agenda of this meeting. Sorry, I have too many things open. I hope you can see my screen properly. Just only to say that this is one of the workshop we are organizing in the frame of Battery 2030, as Christina already introduced, and in the frame of the work package on education, as we need really to have a clear and wide overview on the improvement and the new ideas coming from the disruptive research already presented by Christina in the field of batteries carried out by Battery 2030, and trying to get some, let me say, small pills to be used also in the education, in a wider education field so far. So we already had a workshop on the production with a special live session on the pilot line that is available on Battery 2030 website. Another one last year on the use of sensors and the state of batteries that is still available again on the same website of battery2030.eu. And today and tomorrow morning, we have the opportunity to present you some more the aspects related to self-healing. So we will have the seminal introduction of Robert Dominco, that I thanks also because he's on the other side of the world compared to us, and so it should be very late for him. So thank you very much. Then we have some Q&A sessions that really I hope that everyone can participate and ask to have the opportunity to get answers from the speakers. Maria Wildman, she's the coordinator of Hidden Project, and she will speak about self-healing functionalities of metal lithium batteries. We have a change compared to what was already announced, and we learned the end of last week that Daniel could not give his lecture, and I kindly asked to Rita Magri, who is participating in But Forever project, to give her talk on modeling of self-healing functionalities. And this is the first day. Tomorrow, we will have a new seminal presentation of Anya Marino on supramolecular self-healing polymers. She's also involved in But Forever. And then we got the opportunity to have practical results coming from our young scientists. That's a very big and, let me say, strong community of young researchers that will give some lectures, as you can see here. One on self-functionalities on polyelectrolyte, the other one on self-functionalities on polymer binders. And after the break, method to evaluate the self-healing properties and characterization of self-healing polymers. Okay, so I hope that I don't want to take additional time to everyone. And so I hope that Robert is here and he can start with his presentation. I don't know, Eva, if you know if Robert's available, because we have these difficulties to start to be here as panelists and get the opportunity to present.
Yes, Sylvia, there's been some problem with, as I understand, with the links for the people that are panelists and speakers. So I invited them as co-hosts instead. I don't know if there's a limit to that. He sent me his presentation, and maybe Maria or somebody else could, or you could speak to them if we don't have Robert here. Are you here somewhere, Robert? So please speak up then.
Okay, so as Maria is here, I don't know if, so you see that Robert is not going to join.
I just see that there are several Eva Regod, and I don't exactly know who. I can't see then who is who, of course, because they are all, but I think Maria has signed in. She must have signed in, if not Robert has, because I shared it with you and him. So I don't know if you, Maria, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you think
same
that
name? We have
could,
several Eva here.
yes. Do you think you could present his, if I send his PowerPoints to you straight away?
I don't know. I haven't seen those slides. Maybe we could first start with my presentation, and if
Yes,
he
we could,
still can join.
absolutely. Good
Yep.
idea. And we will try to get
Yes.
Robert on board. Yes,
Mm.
do that. Excellent idea. So I mute
Okay,
myself now.
So please, okay, no, Robert
no,
is
he's
going
coming.
to join, so just on time. So great.
Good.
Okay.
Now he's going. Hi, Robert. We know we all had the issues with the link as panelists, so we know that. And so, so I can introduce you now. No, you look as Eva too, but you see that Robert Domingo has joined us now. So I thank, first of all, I thank you because it should be late for you. And Robert, you know, is a very important researchers in Ljubljana University, and he is going to give us an overview on self-healing functionalities. And so I thank you very much. And I know that all of us got issues, so all the participant knows that we are now running. So I stop sharing my screen, and I hope you should do now.
Okay. Yeah, I have still problems. I hear it myself, and probably you have a lot of effort.
Can
No.
you? We can hear you well.
Okay, but I will just log out and log in once again.
Okay, let's do. So I guess we can wait for a minute and ask for. And wait for Robert.
I don't know what his problem was, because we heard him quite well.
No, yes, but he got a echo, and he was hearing himself while speaking, and it's, let me say, quite difficult to speak while hearing himself again in the hearings. So I guess we can wait for a while. Are we recording this? Please, okay, this is also recorded, so this will be available then on Battery2030 website. So Robert is again here.
Now I'm only one. I have only one login and no echoes and no just
Great.
to where is it now? Share screen.
On the bottom, you should get a green.
Okay, so
super. Thank you very much. Thank you for also the issues.
Can you confirm you see my slides?
Yes, we can see and hear you well.
Great. That was really ultra last second login. And I apologize for that. I was able actually to listen also Christina's introduction, and some of the slides shown by Christina are also included in this presentation. So we will save some time, and probably we will not be late with this presentation. So self-healing functionalities, as Christina already mentioned, that's really the field of the work greatly initiated by Jean-Marie Tarascon, who is a professor at Collège de France in Paris. And I worked with him and helped him to actually elaborate all the fields, and we added also, each of us and many of others added pieces of ideas into this roadmap, and which is now actually already going on. You will hear later on several presentations from 2 projects, and there are some other projects in pipeline for the midterm evaluation of roadmap achievements. So when we are talking about self-healing, probably all of us, we have a reminder that self-healing is something that is almost in our everyday life. So basically the life on the planet is enabled due to the self-healing functionalities of life beings. For sure, most of you or all of you, had some wounds which were bleeding, and that were actually self-healed during the time. Sooner or later, depends on the depth of the cutting or the depth of the damage in the tissue. In general, we have this facility, this actually enabled, and now we are trying to transfer this into the world of material science. And basically, if you look at the similarities between the life science and material science, we have wound and we have crack, and then we need to trigger some self-healing functionality. Here actually it's done by itself, and then we need to have a transport of species that are needed for self-healing functionality, which are doing chemical repair. And this is already very well known in the field of concrete. Concrete is actually, from material science, one field. The science of concrete is one field where self-healing functionalities are included into the everyday products, and there are actually you can buy cement, you can buy materials with built-in fibers, polymers, additional minerals, which can have an autogenic self-healing functionality, or autonomic self-healing functionality. For example, here, what already Christina mentioned, we can have some kind of capsules, and if the crack in concrete it appears, then these capsules are also opened and release some additional cement or other self-healing functionality, which can be, which can make healing of the crack, and with that it protects further water entrance into the crack and further damage which can be caused due to the water entrance, due to the corrosion of the steel, or due to the water expansion during the freezing period of the time. So this is, as I said, this is known, but let's see what we can do in batteries. So when we were talking about self-healing functionalities within the batteries, we thought in 2 different directions. One is autonomous or intrinsic self-healing functionalities, which has continuous function, which works through the hydrogen bonding, covalent bonding. Those are typical some polymers, and actually immediately repairs the structure or the composite functionality and so on. And then another topic which is even less explored. So somehow we can find already this within the polymer electrolytes, within some special binders that were developed in the past and are still in development phase. And I was just last week, I was just attending International Battery Association meeting in Austin, where the oldest Nobel laureate still works. Of course, I'm talking about John Goodenough. And there was a great presentation from one person from Tesla, and he emphasized that this part, so self-healing functionality with continuous, this autonomous intrinsic repairing function for silicon anode is what they are looking for. So that shows also industry, it's not only scientific, of scientific interest, but also it is also of interest of industry, and industry is aware of that field. So, and then non-autonomous extrinsic self-healing functionality, this is something that is a little bit more more problematic, or it still needs a lot of work to be done, some also basic research, because this has to be combined. This is not only self-healing functionality, but this is self-healing functionality that is combined with some sensing, since we need to first to detect that something going wrong, and then we need to trigger the external stimulus, and then actually this external stimulus releases self-healing molecules that are stored. That can be in the separator, that can be in the fibers, which are used for to bring conductivity into the batteries, or that can be in some other parts of the cell, yes, components. And now I will try to give you a flavor. How does it actually? What are comparison between the self-healing functionalities in the batteries and self-healing functionalities that we know already, or that medicine is using to cure the problems with our body? And here is one example, as Christina mentioned already. It was actually proposed by Jean-Marie Tarascon, and it's something that can be solved in the future quite easily, in my opinion. We all know that batteries are aging, like our body is also aging, and some of us, we have a problem with cholesterol, and some of batteries have a problem with formation of different passivation layers. So, and we know that for cholesterol, there is no more any problem if you are taking pills regularly. But for SCI, that problem actually, the problem of increasing the thickness of the SCI brings further problems, because with the thicker SCI, there is a higher internal resistance. With a higher internal resistance, that means that there is more power needed for charging, and there is a higher actually difference between the energy put into the cell and energy output, and that brings additional heat, which actually then brings additional problems with the SCI and so on. So, and if we have incorporated molecules within the cell, which can dissolve the SCI, which can actually cure the SCI, that it becomes more ionically conductive, that can create, that can prevent this problem, and that can actually prolong the battery life. That's actually brings me to this figure, which was shown also by Christina. So what is smart battery? So in this smart battery, we need to have two functionalities. We need to have a self-healing and recovery functionality, and sensing and diagnosis functionalities. And usually what we are doing right now, we are monitoring cells, monitoring battery packs and modules with different external sensors. But if we can do that also within the cell, and then we connect that through the artificial intelligence, so that we can really sense the parameters which are essential for the battery functionality, and we can detect problems in the early stages with the sensors. Then we can release also self-healing functionalities, and we can actually stop the aging, and we can prevent some damages within the cell. And with that, we improve the state of safety, we improve the state of health, and also we improve the quality and reliability. And those are 4 important issues that we are addressing during the within the roadmap that is actually published on the Battery 2030 Plus website. This is more in details. Again, I'm taking this slide from Jean-Marie Tarascon, and he's co-author of this presentation as well. So idea is going even further. So the idea actually, you can say, okay, if we have 5 sensors inside the cell, so then we need 5 additional contacts. But already there are some companies which are developing small transmission channels, or so we can actually have a wireless transmission of the signals from the inside of the cell to the outside and to the updated or upgraded battery management system, and then actually it can go through the some networks, and it can affect the functionalities that I have mentioned before. And that how does it looks in reality? That's again slide from Jean-Marie Tarascon, and he's working a lot with sensors that are in form of optical fibers, and there are already great results coming out from that work. So let me go now more close to the self-healing functionalities. And again, we can predict here two different directions. So we can work as a preventive in the preventive direction. So that looks like more materials design and careful design of interfaces, which can be actually considered as a self-healing functionalities, or it can be just simple coatings on the interfaces, so we can prevent reactions between the electrolyte and the active material. But as we know that cells are designed to work in different environments, or cells are designed mainly for the optimal conditions, but cells then can work in different environments. And cells can also have a different quality, and sometimes some cells degrade faster than others. So that's why we presume that, or we predict that a curative approach within the cells is also important, since with that we can actually repair few details or few problems that are occurring. And like that guy that is actually whipping the water from the floor, where yes. If I go now, what can go wrong in the lithium-ion battery cell? There are many different points, and from current collector dissolution, pulverization of electrical contact loss, structural disordering, micro cracking, so transition metal dissolution, oxygen evolution. So this is on the cathode. Then if those species are dissolved, then there is a chemical crosstalk on the negative electrode. We can have a formation of dendrites, lithium deposits, and so on. So you see, and those are only the major degradation processes. And of course, there are also some others. Depends on the chemistry that you are using. Depends on the additives that are inside. Depends on how preventive is. What are the preventive steps, and what are the still open possibilities for degradation within the cell. If we divide those degradation processes into the two larger areas, we can actually talk about mechanical degradation, where I showed this particle cracking. For example, NMC cathode is very well known that it cracks during the operation, or loss of electrical connectivity that it's quite often is happening if there is a material with a huge volume changes during the lithiation, delithiation process. And then we have the second part is chemical and electrochemical degradation, which concerns passive film formation, gas evolution from the cathode and also from the anode. This dissolution of transition metals, manganese is especially known for that, and we know that manganese is one of the important transition metals for the future. Current collector corrosion, dendrite formation, as I said earlier. And let me now go through the through the possible directions already developed by some researchers, worldwide researchers, not only in Europe, which shows a possibility how to bring these self-functionalities into the cell. When we are talking about the cracking, there was a lot of work done, and the work which showed nicely the possibility of actually self-healing functions by using different liquid metal alloys. If you take gallium and if you then enrich this gallium with indium or antimony, actually you can or tin, you can basically you can get alloys that are at room temperature still solid, but if you heat up the battery to 45 or 50 degrees, those alloys can become liquid and then they can act as they can actually fill all the cracks which are within the which are formed between the material, and with that they can the function is to re-establish the electrical contacts and to actually enable further exploitation of active material. This can be done also by hydrogen bonding. This can be also done by binders. So, and for that one, we need to move from traditional binders to so-called smart binders. So binders that have good interactions between the active particles and polymer, and those binders should have some kind of dynamic interactions and high elasticity. Because of that, because if we have, as I mentioned, large expansions, then we need to have this function within the cell. We are also looking for the binders with high ionic and electronic conductivity. This is necessary, especially binder today is as like a dead material within the cell, but it can be a good ionic conductor, and there were developed binders already based on the polyanionic liquids. And if you bring with that also a little bit of possibility for electron transport, then even if there is a loss of contact, this can be easily re-established back, and so material is not lost, and the capacity is not fading, the capacity remains. A direction where the binders are also developed is so-called 3D branched binders or cross-link structures, and there are some examples shown here how this can be done, and of course there is enormous possibility to go into this direction. Where we are still lacking of this within this field, we have a high binder content, usually more than 10 weight% is needed, and comparing to what we are using today, 2 to 3% or even less than 2% in some cases, depends on the surface area of the active materials. we see that we need to really decrease the quantity. Usually all these all papers, academic papers, they are using also a low active material loading, and most of the activities are developed for silicon anodes and are only demonstrated in the half cells. If you look to the liquid metal alloys, so here we have a complicated interfacial chemistry. Of course, metals are heavy, bringing some additional weight into the cell. And then there is also limited choice of low temperature alloys. And yeah, and also, as you saw that, for example, indium can be quite expensive if we bring that into the cell. But again, once again, so this is an area where there is still a lot of things to be discovered, and we do believe that some of these functions can be actually brought into the commercial cells. As we know, for example, from the material science and from concrete, as I showed you in the first slide, microcapsules built within the material can be of high use, since you can have a stored material inside the microcapsule, and this stored material, for example, there can be a reservoir of carbon nanotubes, and this reservoir of carbon nanotubes, when there is a rupture in the material, can actually re-establish the contact between the two particles. So this is one direction, but on the other side, you can bring also some film formation additives into these capsules. So if there is any rupture or any crack, for example, SEI can be formed out from these additives, and you don't need to use additional lithium from the negative, from the active side of the material. Again, we can put some salt inside, and when since we know that the major mechanism is that lithium is lost through the passive film formation, and when this actually occurs severally, we can rupture or we can release lithium salt out from the microcapsules, and we can re-establish the capacity. So those are only a few of ideas where we can go and how this can be used. And of course, there is still unexplored area which has to be demonstrated. So when we are talking about the practical limitations, here we need we need one or two stimulus. First stimulus, of course, it has to be that microcapsules are opened. This can be done by cracking, but usually the usually those are polymers, and mechanical stabilities or this plasticity of the polymers is higher than the plasticity of the ceramics. And we need probably to actually go to some higher temperature, and then again we need additional stimulus to reactivate the chemical that was stored inside. One of the problems is also poor control over the amount and release profiles, and some other problems which I already have mentioned during my talk. One of the most advanced field are so-called self-healing electrolytes. Usually those are gel polymers or polymer electrolytes, composite polymer electrolytes, and so on, where the field is the most advanced, and actually it's approaching already towards commercialization. So that's why I will just go quickly through this. And the main problems we know in this field are polymers with good conductivity and good lithium transference number, typically we still don't have high conductive polymers which are not jellified, which are really true solid polymers. And yet, an important part of the self-healing functionalities are also smart scavenging separators. So right now, today, we are using separators that are just built into the cell to transport the lithium ions from one side to another side and to prevent electrical contacts. And they have also some safety issues, or they can improve the safety if there is a thermal runaway or if there is any gassing problem. But can you imagine that we built within the separators also scavenging molecules that can actually capture all the dissolved transition metal ions, cations, leaving cathode, and so they are actually captured within the separator and they don't go to the anode where they can actually destroy the SEI and then even increase the degradation of the lithium ion cell. And so this is one case. Another case is to capture water molecules at the beginning, if there are any. So yet we can capture fluorinated compounds and so on. So there is still a lot of things that can be done in this direction. And so there are still some practical limitations. Especially this one, it's in my opinion now quite realistic, because we are moving towards to the cathodes where we are also using oxygen redox couple, and sometimes those cathodes are not stable and they are releasing, there is a release of oxygen which is highly reactive. And of course, we always need to take care about low cost manufacturability and scalability fabrication so that we can really bring that to the commercial phase. So I went quite quickly during this presentation for different possibilities, and those different possibilities are then addressing different points of in the battery cell. And again, this slide was already shown by Christina, and now I hope you got this that we can build some kind of multi-layers, which can be in the form of separator or coatings. Again, coatings can be done for surface functionalization. This surface functionalization can be actually some kind of preventive step, but it can be also designed to have this curative step. So imagine that your cathodes are surface functionalization with ionically, electronically conductive polymer, which has also capability to capture dissolved cations. And with that, actually, you can do a lot of important improvements towards to the next generation of lithium-ion cells. Triggering of the self-healing functionalities that will be important in the future, and of course there is a still long pathway to do that, to have this active self-healing functionability, and especially this active self-healing functionability is important because we need to bring also vectorization into the cell. So the self-healing has to be well distributed within the cell. It has to be designed in the way that it is released once through the whole volume once when it's triggered, and so that actually can improve the full cell, not only parts of the cell. And then we can still again have a problem since part of the cells will need to carry on much higher current density than other damaged parts. one important field, if we are moving into this direction, is self-healing functionalities based on biosourced materials. We are quite often addressed in the community that we are using a lot of energy for producing batteries, and the batteries are far from to be green. So moving into this good direction, we can save a lot of energy for formation of materials. And I talked a lot about monitoring, sensing, and triggering, which are important part when we have this non-autonomous self-healing functionalities, or extrinsic, as it can be called. With that, I will actually only, yes, I mentioned the specially resolved vectorization, and I already talked about it, teasing self-healing needs. So with that, I hope I convince you that today's batteries can do a lot. We improved them already to such extent that even our colleague from Canada, Jeff Dunn, is already talking about 1 century lifetime of the battery cells. And he showed just last week, he again showed impressive cycling of several thousands of cycles with in the full capacity range. But bringing self-healing functionalities into the cell and also sensing, we can even improve, as I said, we can improve their quality, reliability, lifetime, and also safety. And all those 4 parameters are very important for cells to be even better accepted within the community, and actually also to have a even wider use in our everyday life. And with that, I would like to thank for your intention, and that's it, yes. So I see there are some questions already in the chat.
So thank you very much, Robert, for your very, very nice and clear presentation. So that opens to many questions, I guess. One is already here, so we have some time for questions. If you have others, please just write them in the Q&A session here. The first question is, what is the common size of a self-healing microcapsule?
That's a good question. That's it can be below micron, but of course that's still has to be brought into the cells. There are not so many reports within the batteries. So let's consider that this is built into the separator. So then we cannot go more than 10 microns. So we need to stay in the level of a micron or 1 or 2 micrometer.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, on your own opinion, what is the most promising self-healing method?
Good question.
It depends.
Yeah, if we take advice of Tesla researchers, so if you want to have a cooperation with Tesla, let's develop first, or let's solve silicon anode first, which is the most appealing problem right now.
And third question is, do you think Europe has the leadership in battery self-healing research compared to other countries as US, Japan, and China, Korea, and so on?
When the roadmap was created, actually, and the roadmap battery for 2030 plus, battery 2030 plus was created, actually that was pure European idea. And Christina can confirm that roadmap was immediately translated into Chinese language. And now we, after 2 years or 3 years, we see already some reports coming from China, while I didn't still detect any activity in the United States on that field.
So, okay, another question is arriving. How this will affect the recyclability of batteries, and what complexity will this create in recycling?
That's a very good question, and since we don't have a really direction which can be applied, so then also recycling is very hard to discuss recycling. I'm actually I'm behind all the ideas to use bio-sourced molecules within this approach, and that actually then can make a little bit easier recycling, since we hope also these biosourced molecules can be biodegradable and can be actually wasted. But on the other hand, if we are looking approach from polymers side, then of course today we are aware that all polymers that are brought into the cells has to be also recycled. So this has to be considered already at the beginning. What type of polymers is used either for solving problems with silicon anode or bringing microcapsules or whatever functionality into the cell.
May I ask one question, as no other are in the chat? One is, again, as the one on recycling on production. How could, let me say, for sure, self-healing properties, as this is the same method, but maybe also the other smart functionalities like the use of sensor affect the production. So this will increase the complexity, costs, or nothing?
No, for sure, complexity of the production is increased. Even if you are bringing, let's consider that there are two approaches, or there are 3-4 approaches in sensing. If you are bringing what type of sensor you are bringing into the cell, either you need to have a wireless transmission of the signal, or you need to have additional contacts, and that's already additional complexity that is brought into the production. And now let's say that this sensor is glass fiber, so optical sensor, which needs to be either recycled or maybe even taken out and used once again. So this is a complexity. So another approach is sensor printed on the separator or on the housing. This is less complex, but of course still you need to have some kind of wiring inside, which are typically metals, which has to be recycled. So, and then from the point of self-healing, as I said, polymers, we know that polymers already today, once when you are designing the cell, you need to already think about the self-healing, about the recycling. Some lithium salts, additional lithium salts, this goes together with the lithium recycling and so on. So of course, it's bringing complexity, but if you can prolong lifetime for 2 times, then it's question. I think it can be economically viable, and we can afford that.
Thank you. The next question is from the chat. Thank you for the nice presentation. How would the self-healing alloying anode, for example, silicon gallium system, influence the first cycle Coulombic efficiency?
Very tough question for me, since I was never working on that area. It's taken from the literature what I have showed you, so I don't remember these numbers. Sorry, I cannot answer this.
I have an additional question, if I may do that. Your presentation was quite chemistry neutral, and that's more or less the approach we followed in Battery 2030 roadmap. Do you think that there are differences in self-healing properties considering different chemistries? Let me say lithium ion compared to metallic lithium, you already showed, but going toward the post-lithium ion based on sulfur, oxygen, or other cations, could everything change, or could something be recycled and reused in other approaches? It's an unexplored field, and
yeah, it's. I think that the question is very good positioned, and Of course, if you look at pharmaceutical companies, they are relying on few approaches, but of course, for each illness, they design their own chemicals. And that's in idea also here in bringing that field into the batteries. And nice example which I showed is how many different approaches were developed for self-healing concrete, since this is the one of the most developed field in the material science. And that shows complexity, and that shows also possibilities that we can go into different directions. Now, if this, self-healing functionality to for example, to dissolve SCI formation on the graphite, in my opinion, it can be used also for lithium metal. But of course, first you need to stabilize lithium metal, that you don't have formation of the this high surface area or dendrites and high surface area metal particles. And with that, then yeah, you have approximately very similar surface and similar potential. So I expect that both directions or the same approach can be used for both materials.
Thank you very much. Is there any additional question?
I have one, if I may.
Sure, Guiomar,
Yeah.
please.
So with all these self-healing functionalities, we plan to bring in new materials that will be exposed to the electrochemical setup. Do you think their electrochemical stability is something that we should be concerned about?
Oh yeah, that has to be tested at the beginning. If there is no electrochemical stability, then there is no use.
Yeah, and do you think research has been focused on this?
In my opinion, as far as I'm following that, yes, of course, this is the first test when you design something. You test stability. So if you are bringing something that brings you additional instability into the cell, you didn't do anything.
Yeah, good. I just see a lot of new materials with new functionalities, and I wonder how stable they would be also in the long term. But yeah,
that's long-term stability is then again another problem, because we know that in these small cells that we are testing in labs, typically we don't detect any gassing, because the quantity of gas is so low that we cannot detect it. But once when you are bringing this into larger cells and living for longer time, then that can be a problematic part. Yeah, I agree with this in this direction. Yes.
and I have another question, if I can.
Please.
As well.
Sure, we have time.
Yeah. What do you think is the main bottleneck to realize this self-healing battery?
In my opinion, it's more going into the manufacturing and checking really the economical technical parameters. So there are many reports on a small scale that things are working very well, but then the question is how this can be translated into the some prototype pouch cells with the capacity of few amp hours, and checking really functionality there. And then, of course, this will bring additional work to BMS. Since BMS will have to be redesigned, especially if we have this extrinsic self-healing functionality, which needs, yeah, it's written now right now, temperature activated self-healing.
Thank you.
So if Sylvia, I will just I will answer this question. So this is again a good question. So temperature degradation or other components of the cell. Yeah, that can be a problem, but of course, then this triggering with the temperature shouldn't go more than 40, 50 degrees. So maybe in short time, but not for a long time. Yeah. Of course, if you expose cell for a long time at a high temperature, then again you introduce additional degradation and not self-healing.
Then there's another one. Some of the material mentioned were critical raw materials. So how will this affect its implementation when we go on large scale production?
Yeah, I mentioned this in this direction where people developed self-healing functionalities with liquid alloys, especially using gallium, indium, and so on. So I agree. This is only demonstration, and it's not something that is feasible for large-scale commercialization. It can be maybe feasible to some small extent for some special cells where you need really long lifetime.
May drive also the research in different directions. So I do not see any additional question. So really, I thank you very much for your very seminal and very important presentation, very clear, and for being here. Nevertheless, the issues we finally solved, and so we have time for a break till 10:40. So enjoy your coffee and connect again in half hour, more or less, even less. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much, and see you in a while. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank